What would it be like to be an industrial hygiene specialist, aka occupational hygiene specialist in some other countries? No idea? Well, spoiler alert, this job has nothing to do with dental hygiene or industrial cleaning. It's actually centered in on the control, recognition, and evaluation of health and safety, as well as environmental matters within a workplace or community. And this job is a fascinating one, and we've got this great guest who's here to break it all down for us today. Not only that, she works within one of the largest mines, that's right, you heard that right, mines in the world doing this job. So you're going to hear roles, responsibilities, as well as some of the perks of the job, and a bunch more. So if you're interested in finding out about new professions, new opportunities, this could be the right episode for you. So I think it's about time to jump into things, so why don't we? Okay, well, the first thing I think we need to do is to give a little bit more clarity about what industrial hygiene specialist is all about. So I've got this segment called A Day in the Life, and here Robyn is just going to break down what her day typically looks like. Now, she did mention that as industrial hygiene specialist, it does vary pending the industry that you're within. And Robyn herself, as I'd mentioned, she's within mining, but if you're within the military or you're within aviation or you're working within some other consultancy, it could look different. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, have a listen.
And essentially, we'll hook up the monitors depending on what we're monitoring. So if we're doing dust monitoring or we're doing welding or noise or so forth, will dictate what you wear for the day. And the person, I do full day monitoring. So essentially what they do is they wear the monitor for the day, and I go through a little bit of instructions and why you're wearing it, how you're wearing it, what this will contribute to, and so forth. So they get their own little personal training blurb and all that. But then we go through the rundown of, I'll come visit you throughout the day as well. So be prepared. I'm going to pop up out of nowhere. But I also go talk to their leaders or their bosses or whoever's in charge and go, this is the situation. This is what we discussed about. But also, how's everything going? So this is my moment to have those really one-on-one in-depth conversation of how you're going. The people that put the monitors on, I find out about their day. I find out about their family, what their holidays are coming up for. And I get that really one-on-one in-depth conversation where I just get to enjoy my conversation as well, because I've learned so much things. The people I know, the activities they do, this is how I get to know them. So I go through all that and I talk to the leaders and I find out what other issues they've got as well. So I might be coming to do dust monitoring, but there's a great big noise issue over the back there. Can you help us out? So this is where I'm getting my real in-depth pulse, finger on the pulse situation of my work site. From there, I kind of do a little bit of research. Oh, is that really an issue? Is it a maintenance issue or is it an exposure issue? And you just kind of figure it out. And that's that anticipation, recognize, and so forth area. Then I finally get to do some data entry. So after I've done all that, that's like 2-3 hours. I go down and I sit down and do my data entry. I write my notes and I go for the process. I might go do some different monitoring that I've organized for the day. I might go meet up with people and do check-ins and make sure that they're okay. I might just go to meetings and do risk assessments. I might do chemical evaluations. It really depends on the day, what they need and what service I can provide to them. But after the end of the day, get close to the end of the day, I then go collect my monitors and I get that one-on-one time again with my people. And essentially what we do is we go for the day. How'd you go? What did you do? What did you get up to? I saw this. What did you see? Was that really, what did you think of the situation? Did you see any different activities going on? Were you experiencing different activities? And this is all real nutshell-y, but it's a blurb and it explains to me what's going on and what potential exposures they have. So that monitoring I've done, I can now quantify with what they're saying and what they did and what I observed and so forth. So we're putting essentially numbers to their story. We're making sure, hey, I don't like that noise over there. I'm like, well, your numbers now verify what you're saying. It's not just a anecdotal situation. It's now a verified situation. So having that information and all that actually helps us with a lot of other things like controls and so forth. But that's what happens. And then I go do my post calibration. So I'm normally there after everyone leaves as well. So I'll do my post calibration and I'll essentially go through making sure the equipment was correct. We didn't do anything wrong with the equipment, and do all my sampling COC, so my chain of custody and so forth. Well, at the end of the day before I get to leave, but I've also set up equipment for the next day.
Next up, I've got a clip coming from one of the most popular segments on the podcast called Pathways. And it is as it sounds. Here we try to trace how guests made their way into their present day work. So here's a clip of Robyn breaking that down for us.
This was not a field that was on your radar, at least initially, from a professional standpoint. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how things unfolded to the point where you ended up within this world of industrial hygiene.
Honestly, like every single person I've ever met and told them my position, I didn't know it existed. I also agreed that it was cleaning or dental hygiene. That's essentially the two extremes I get.
That's what I thought too, yeah.
Yes, everyone says that. And now I just go, don't worry, I don't expect you to understand. I'll explain it to you. But I didn't know it existed. I originally went to university for environmental science. I was an environmentalist to begin with. Like so many other people, I came out during the GFC, which was a little bit hard to get a job when you're a graduate. It was just that really odd time where they weren't really wanting to employ anyone new. So I decided to go into admin. Luckily, I went into admin into a really big company, a really big construction company, and I was able to transfer over into environment, which I did for a couple of years. I was having a great time, did really well in it. But then I went to a site and they had an opportunity. And I will be honest, I was the youngest one there and I was the newest one there and no one else wanted to do it. So off I went and did the training, but it was a great opportunity. I had that ability to learn something new, which was industrial hygiene or occupational hygiene, depending on your country of origin. And from there, I met this really awesome lady who was teaching the training, and she encouraged me to study. It was one of those, well, you picked it up really easy. You actually seem to enjoy yourself. Why don't you pursue this? Like, we need hygienists. Like, we need someone in this field. And I did. I went to university part-time while I was working full-time, and I pursued this. And about a couple of weeks after I graduated, I had a job. It's one of those professions that not a lot of people know about, so it's hard to get people into it, but the positions are there. They're waiting for you. You obviously have to do the hard work to get to them, but once you're in, you've got a position.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And also too, it seems to afford the opportunity to maybe work in some remote locations as well, like being from Australia and now in America, in California, right? I mean, that must be exciting as well.
Oh, it's amazing. I went and talked to a group of kids the other day, school kids, and they were just like, well, do you love your work? I'm like, I love my work because it allows me to pursue what I want, and that's traveling. And essentially, I have done all this hard work and I've worked in really remote locations, especially in Australia. I've worked in some remote locations, but it allowed me to travel overseas. It allowed me to build that experience, and it also allowed me to move to America with my experience and knowledge. And if that's something that appeals to anyone, please look into it. It's an amazing opportunity, and the pathways are so varied. I went university way. Some people go experience way. And they just build their experience years after years after years. And they're equivalent to me. They're my colleagues. They're my leaders. They're everything. And that's something that there's so many different varieties to get to where we want to be.
So if you recall, off the top, I did mention that industrial hygiene specialist is keyed in on the recognition, evaluation, and control of health and safety, as well as environmental risks stemming from a workplace. But I want to dive into that a little bit further and hear some clear-cut examples of what that means. So I did ask that question, and here is a clip of Robyn breaking that down for us.
A great example is noise. Everyone understands noise exposure because you go to a concert and remember how your ears slightly ring afterwards? That's noise exposure. That's really loud noise exposure. So something like that, and trying to quantify it is always, like, obviously you have to be there with the right monitoring equipment. But we can normally get a general idea, especially noise. So I've had situations where I had some really great medical professionals like, we're seeing something here. We're seeing something. Are you seeing something? And together we've been able to investigate this situation. And essentially it was a faulty bit of equipment that needed some maintenance. And between us, we've able to quantify it. We're able to show that there's while protections are being worn and they're working, there's slightly something going on there. We need to start looking into it a bit more. So working with everyone involved, we're able to fix this piece of equipment. I think we actually replaced it just after I left, to be honest. That was one of my old sites, and I didn't get to see the outcome of the situation, but we had a really positive effect. But then there's all these other different things. So nowadays we're thinking about whole worker health. So that's obviously the physical, but the mental as well. So I'm part of the, I'm the peer support coordinator. So we're looking at mental health and how we can support our people. And as the coordinator, I've got this brilliant group of people that work with me, and they're all different from different life backgrounds, shapes, sizes, everything in between. And between us, we're just being these nice little friendly ears, or just a presence. Just if someone's having a bad day, they can talk to us. If someone needs a bit of advice, well, we're not therapists, we're not nothing, but we have these avenues that we have employee assistant programs, and they actually help us with this, and this, and just generally being good people. But we got a nice little badge with it as well. But there's just things like that, and really worrying about whole worker health, because I'm sure many people in my profession will very happily tell you about this, but if you have exposure, especially to noise, it can actually start to impact you. So people with ringing in their ears, tinnitus, they just get really annoyed, and people can't understand why. I'm like, well, you've got a constant ringing in your ear. Of course you're going to get annoyed after a while.
Yeah.
So things like that. It's not just a physical component, it's actually a mental component as well. The role is so varied. I have people that work in laboratories, and they never leave the laboratories, and they're amazing. They can tell you all about mold that I can't tell you. I'm like, yes, there's mold. I can sample for it. I can tell you this, but they can go into the nitty-gritty and the species and so forth. Or we have people at indoor air quality or asbestos or something like that. We've got people that I work with that are just experts in silicosis. And I'm like, oh, that's just something that I love coming to talk to you, but that's not really my passion. My passion is generalists, where I get to talk to people every day.
Now, in the course of this conversation with Robyn, I came to discover a bunch about this job. But one of the things that kept coming up over and over again was something that you would never find within the formal roles and responsibilities of an industrial hygiene specialist. And what I'm referring to is this social component to the work. Interacting with others, and how critically important that is. But then also too, if that's something that you enjoy, this is an added benefit. This is something that you can really derive a lot of joy from. And again, in the conversation with Robyn, I noticed this time and time again. So here is actually Robyn speaking to this point. So listen in.
So you talk to everyone, you get to involve everyone. I think I've sent you also a clip of a blast. That's me hitting the button on the blast, just because I happen to be there with the guys and monitoring them. And it's just one of those things, when you get integrated into these relationships and build these relationships, you get involved in their lives, their work life and their daily lives. And I'm really lucky where I know when one of their kids has achieved a sporting achievement, and I get super excited for them. I know when they are going for a development opportunity, and when they get it, I'm like a proud mum, because I am so excited for them, because I know how much they tried. I know when, you know what, it's not a good day today. And I'm like, that's fine. You can have bad days. It's okay. As long as we get you back to those good days, that's what's important. We need to keep you guys going. We need to make sure that you're okay. So having those interactions, I talk to everyone, so I know what's going on. And yeah, it's just a really great opportunity if you like a bit of social, but you like a little bit of science behind you.
Okay, well, I think it's about time to wrap up this video, but as always, I do encourage you to check out the full-length audio version. There we get into several more topics. For example, things like how she goes about balancing, health and safety, environmental, as well as company initiatives, company goals, and that can be a tricky balance to attain. She also breaks down how technology, things like AI, are shifting and changing the work of industrial hygiene specialists, as well as a bunch more. She has this fantastic story that you're not going to want to miss. So you can find that episode wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... All right, well, I will have another episode coming for you right next week, so don't miss it. All right, we'll see you then.